Welcome to episode 111 of I Thought I Knew How, a podcast about knitting and life and all sorts. I'm your host, Anne Frost, and this episode was recorded on November 2nd, 2023. We have quite a few things to cover today, but we're going to get caught up first. We haven't talked since August, and also it's the second day of Wovember as I record this. And I also have a book review and a giveaway. It feels like it's going to be a lot. I think we can manage. Let's get to it. It's kind of crazy to me that so much time has passed since I last had an episode of the podcast, but it really has been nearly 3 months. And as I sit here now, trying to remember all that has happened, I can't quite, A, remember everything, and B, believe that all this stuff fit into that time period. I really must be mad to be working at that intensity. I am looking forward to cooling my jets a bit, but in all honesty, I don't know how successful I will be at that. Still, I am going to give it a go. Right. In August, we had the start of the fall Makkin our way through Shetland tours. After we last spoke, I got my daughter moved into her dorm, and the same night was off to join the tours, which had to start without me. Luckily, I had the best business partner with Jolene, who had everything well in hand without me. Incidentally, all of the Fair Isle weeks for next year are sold out, but there are still spaces left in the Lace and Contemporary Crafts weeks for 2024, and those were, I think, the most gratifying as a tour host, because we had people who sort of took those weeks as add-ons to their Fair Isle weeks this last year, but they came away saying that they were so glad they stayed on and they got so much out of them and really enjoyed themselves. So have a look at the Island Vista website under Wool Tours and see if they line up with your schedule next year. The tours went well. We had lovely folks along for the fall, and they had really nice weather for it for the most part too, which is always nice. You get to show off Shetland in the best light, I think. I had about a week off between the tours and the start of Shetland Wool Week, and my husband came over to join me for a bit. And then he was off again because he knew that once Wool Week started, he was going to be a wool widower. So he headed off to other things. Wool Week was a different sort of experience for me this year. Most of the classes I took were not knitting related, and I did that on purpose. I've been several times now, and I've had classes with teachers online and during the tours. And so I sort of aimed myself more at the talks and some of the classes offered by other craftspeople working in the islands. One of the classes I really enjoyed was with Eunson, who is working to revive the practice of making strawback chairs as they were made in Fair Isle. I'll see if I can find a link to some of her work to put in the show notes for you. She gave a talk in which she took us through her work to hunt down as many of the chairs as possible and do a study of each of them. She then studied under several different people to learn how to make the wooden base of the chair and to learn the technique of tying the straw in place to form the back of the chair. So let's put on our imagining caps for a minute. And I want you to picture a wooden chair with arms, but with no back to the chair at all. And imagine like two dowels coming up from the back corners of the seat, not all the way up, not like all the way up to your shoulders, just maybe up to sort of your mid-back. And along the edge of the back of the seat, okay, we're going to get to work now. We're imagining and we're working at the same time. So along the edge of the back of the seat, you have very, very long cords, like a twiny type cord, and you're going to secure the middle of each of those cords to the edge of the seat so that one side of the cord dangles back behind the chair and one just sort of hangs out on the seat of the chair and waits for you. Then you're going to take enough straw to fit through a man's wedding ring, and you're going to lie that over where the cords are secured along the edge. Okay, are you with me? And then you're going to take the two ends of the same cord and tie a special knot on the top of the bundle of the straw, and then let the ends dangle down again. And then you're going to take the ends of the next cord and use those to tie the knot on the top of the bundle, and then the next one, and then the next one, all along the back of the seat. You'll work your way across and then bend the straw bundle back and work on top of the straw bundle. And you're just taking the two ends of the same cord, tying the special knot over the bundle of straw. And as the straw bundle sort of thins out, you'll put more straw into it so that it maintains the same thickness. And in the end, what you end up with is a sort of boat-shaped back to the chair that will keep out drafts. And at first glance, it looks sort of like a basket. There are other areas of the world that create similar chairs, but they tend to sew the layers of straw in place rather than tying them together. And there were other aspects of the chair that were sort of, unique to Fair Isle. These were chairs that were made for women to use, and they would be sat facing the fire with this curved boat sort of shape, straw backing to keep out the drafts and to catch the heat as it came off of the fire. It was fascinating. Some of the lectures I was able to take included one by Carol Christensen about how she curates the textile collection in the museum. There was another one that was sort of split between Angus Johnson and Mark Smith of the archives, where we got to actually go into the archives and take a look at some of the really remarkable parts of the collection. Like there's this one where this fellow just used what paper he had and he wrote a sort of diary with the tiniest writing you have ever seen. Like if you're just looking at the writing, it just looks like someone drew a line across the paper. But with a magnifying glass, you can see that it's actually teeny tiny writing that was done with a nib that must have been so absolutely tiny. And because even with a magnifying glass, it still looked like small writing. Like I would have problems writing that small as it looked with the magnifying glass. And this fellow was writing it so tiny that it just looks like a line on the paper. It's absolutely amazing. They also, in the front part, not in the actual storage, but in the front part of the archives where the books are just there and you can access them easily, they had a copy of the very first Shetland Wool Week Annual. And I've never been able to find a copy. It's a little smaller size-wise. It's a little thinner. It's a little actually like smaller, but same sort of general format. In the first one, you sort of had the designers answering the same set of questions, and then it went into their pattern. And that was actually very interesting. There are little tidbits about each of the designers that I hadn't known before. So anyway, I sat down with it. I read through it because I had some time before I had to go off to my next thing. And it was really nice to be able to see one. They're like gold. The people who have them hold on to those. They didn't publish as many of them as the modern annuals or the contemporary annuals. That was a real treat to be able to see that. Hazel Tindall did a really interesting talk about the knitters that she grew up around, which I thought was wonderful. A lot of the time now, as people sell their hand knits, it's going to be to people who are aware of them. So sometimes they buy a hand knit because it was made by a particular person, or they seek out a particular person to commission because their work is known and admired. But that is such a new phenomenon. Until very recently, all the people working in hand knitting and hand machining were basically anonymous. They'd either knit at home for additional income and sell to a broker, or they were knitting in a knitting factory. The brokers would sell it on to someone else, or the factory would take the hand knits and they would sew their label into the garment. So you never knew who actually made the item that you're buying. So I really enjoyed hearing about the women Hazel grew up around and what they used to knit, and see some of the garments they made in photos and be able to connect those knitters with their garments. Alison Rendall, of course, was the patron this year, and her patron talk was incredible. She covered her knitting background, her current work, meaning like she is a nurse. So she talked about, being a nurse in the islands, her design work, her love for Shetland and the language of Shetland, the inspirations for her knitting, especially the buggy fleur beanie. And also she talked about her hopes for Shetland. It was spellbinding, to be honest. The time went very quickly. With all the talks, the time went quickly. There's nothing quite like listening to someone who has a passion about something talk. Even if you don't know about the topic yourself, when you have the chance to hear someone who really knows the topic and is enthusiastic about it, It's an absolute gift. Anyway, there are more classes and more talks, and I enjoyed my time once again at Shetland Wool Week. The dates are out for next year. They are shortening the event by 2 days, so it will now run from Sunday to Saturday instead of from a first Saturday to the second Sunday. The dates are now 29th of September to 5th of October, 2024. If you'd like to go, start by looking for housing now, but don't be discouraged if you don't see anything right away. People don't believe me, but there's often housing available just a month or two ahead of time because people cancel or they purposely overbook and then cancel the extra accommodation as time grows nearer. Also, at this point of the year, there are lots of guest houses and Airbnbs that haven't opened their booking calendars that far in advance. So what I recommend, if you want to go, is to set a reminder for yourself either on your paper calendar or in your electronic device to remind yourself once a month to look for housing during Wool Week. Plan for an extra day before and an extra day after, just because that's a smart thing to do when you're traveling to Shetland. Sometimes there's delays. Once you have your housing, you can book your flights. Get on the Shetland Wool Week mailing list so you know when the classes will be released. And if you don't get into many or even any, don't sweat it. A lot of people overbook themselves and sell the tickets while they're in Shetland. And there are a lot of informative events happening that don't require a ticket. So come along. It's a good time. Oh, one more tip I just thought of. If you are getting closer to the time, you've decided you're going to come, it's getting closer to the time and you haven't been able to find housing, Airbnb has an option now where you can search by splitting your time. So there might be an Airbnb in town that has 4 days that you can use and another Airbnb out in Scalawa that has the rest of the time that you can use. So public transportation is very easy in Shetland. Just double check that there is a bus that will service the area or be willing to rent a car. A lot of people end up not coming because they don't realize that, I could split my time between, a guest house for a few days, an Airbnb for a few days. We've done that in the past and it's worked fine for us. For now, though, let's have a song. Grab your knits. Enjoy this little number by Tom Goldstein called White as Snow.
Green is the grass, white is the snow. Everywhere I'm looking now, it seems easier to sit back and breathe the air. Washing away, watching as they slowly lose their shape. It seems lighter on the shoulder. The music inside grows louder and I find myself once again smiling like a child's thought. I'm not looking for a reason. I'm free as the grass coming from under the snow. Nothing standing in my way. Breathe in the air. Oh, ba-da-da-da-da-da, ba-da-da-da-da-da. Ba-da-da-da-da-da, ba-da-da-da-da-da. Looking around, breathing the sound. This is happiness to me. This is just for me. Forget all about you and I. It's so much smaller than you think. So much smaller than they make you think. Look at the sun in the sky, see how it shines so bright on the water. Look at the river and see it flowing through me, through my veins. Oh, ba-da-da-da-da.
So as I record this, it is the morning of November 2nd, which means it's the second morning of Wovember. And during Wovember, we celebrate the wonderful fiber that is wool, along with the people all along the supply chain who make wool happen. Wool is biodegradable. It can be worn multiple times without washing. It can add nutrients to the soil. It can insulate our homes. It cleans the air in the rooms that it's in. It can help us keep both warm and cool. It has to be removed from the sheep for their health, and the people who work in the wool industry are some of the most dedicated, informed, empathetic people I've ever met. They are also often utterly frustrated by the fact that we as a society know so little about wool, especially when it is literally the answer to so many of the problems we face with our economy and environment. So Wovember is about spreading the word about wool, learning more ourselves, and celebrating the fabulous fiber that is sheep's wool. This year, I'm hosting another posting prompt challenge. It's only happening on Instagram this year just because it's only me now, and I'm trying to have a better work-life balance. You know, I think I've mentioned this a few times now. Reading the posts yesterday took me a full 8 hours. Things tend to slow down after the first few days, but I don't know this year. There are so far 22 prizes and a few more that might be coming. So I think people are feeling highly motivated to post this year. The way a posting challenge works is the organizer comes up with a prompt for each day, and you think about it and make a post related to that prompt that also relates to the overall theme. So day one's prompt was a beginning. And of course, the month is about celebrating wool. So some of the posts were about how people got started in wool crafts. Some posted about a project they were starting for Wovember. Some talked about early wool textiles. The prompt reminder that I posted had an image of a mouflon sheep. And in all honesty, that's one of those words that I have only ever seen written. I've never had anyone say that word to me, so I'm not sure if I'm saying it right. Mouflon sheep, which is the breed that most of the modern sheep breeds were derived from. Not everyone is going to handle the prompt the same way. So we end up thinking about lots of different wool-related things each day. In your post, you also use the hashtag Wovember 2023, and you can follow that hashtag. So Instagram will show you some of the daily posts people make, and it also allows me to find and track your entries. Each daily prompt post that you make gets you an entry for one of the prizes. And you can get a bonus entry by wearing something made of wool and making another post about that. In those posts, use the hashtag Wovember 2023 again so I can see the post, but you can also use the hashtag Wear Wool for Wovember to call attention to that specific type of post. Tell us about what you're wearing. Where did you buy it? Or if you made it, what is the pattern? What's the yarn? Help people find practical ways that they could be wearing wool. Spotlight some designers or yarns you love. Maybe, hopefully, help someone who isn't already wearing wool decide to give it a try, you know? You can find the posting prompts and the list of prizes on the I Thought I Knew How Instagram feed. Just look back along my wall and you'll see the post pretty quickly. It says like prize post and you'll see the prompts there. They have sort of a tartany background to them with writing on top. If you're hearing this late, you can make posts to catch up or just join in where you are. Please don't make one post to cover multiple prompts though. If you want to catch up, do one post for each prompt. Otherwise, just jump in where you're joining in. I give an entry for the post, not for how many prompts you answer within the post. So some people are like, I got to get caught up, and they'll like figure out a way to answer or to make a post that has like 5 prompts covered, and it ends up just sort of being gibberishy. Just pick one of the ones and make a post about it. It's fine. It's okay. Rather than going through all the prizes here, as I said, at this point, there's 22 of them. I'm just going to point you to the prize posts. That way you can actually see them too, and you can see the people who are offering them and decide if you'd like to follow them, which I highly recommend. They're all wonderful business people and wool growers and creative minds. At this point, there are so many prizes. It took me 3 posts to share all of them. Some are, in the sort of $15-ish range, but a lot of them are the $30 to $50 prizes. And there are some that are worth well over $100. Neil Linnell is donating one of her ultrafine merino scarves. There are folks offering yarn and soap and project bags and shawl cuffs and books and all kinds of things. And I think we're going to have more prizes coming. The Mother Load prize is 12 hanks of sock yarn. You can knit yourself a pair of socks every month between now and next Wovember. Also happening this Wovember is the Wovember Wool account is hosting a weekly chat with members of the wool community. This first week was a chat with Zoe Fletcher, also known as the Woolist. That happened yesterday. I haven't had time to watch it yet. I'm hoping to get to it once I'm done recording this episode. So make sure you're following Wovember Wool on Instagram, and you'll be able to either watch the weekly chats live or catch them later on the Instagram feed. These are happening at 7 p.m. British time, which going forward, they've already changed their clocks. We're about to change our clocks in the U.S. So going forward, it'll be 2 p.m. Eastern time. But again, once it's recorded, it's just there on their feed. So you can watch later if you have work or other commitments while it's going on. Wovember is always a good time. Come on over to Instagram and join us. We have another song from an artist who's been on the show a few times in the past. This is Ben Bostick with Too Dark to Tell.
In this dark night, it's too hard for me to say now if the rays of hope will shine again someday, and if I might be spared as the tempest starts to swell. At this point, it's just too dark to tell. Was the stars guiding me to God's shores now? Was the devil set me drifting once more? Will these clouds ever lift and the map again reveal? At this point, it's just too dark to tell. If these green-eyed blues would lighten up, if my nature would shake this wicked spell, if this midnight sky would brighten up, if my ears could hear a voice saying, all will be well, then all is well, all is well. I once was found, now again I'm lost. On merciless waves I am tossed. I would tell you of His grace and how it was I fell, but some tales are just too dark to tell. If these green-eyed blues would lighten up, if my nature would shake this wicked spell, if this midnight sky would brighten up, if my ears could hear a voice saying, all will be well, then all is well, all is well. I once was found, now again I'm lost. On merciless waves I am tossed. I would tell you of his grace and how it was I fell, but some tales are just too dark to tell.
So I was approached several months ago, sometime back in early summer, I think, to review a new book of patterns. And I had to pass because I had so much going on and coming up, and I just didn't think I had the time. And then they reached out again, and I said, look, I'd love to, but I really am just so crunched for time. And they said, that's okay, we're happy to wait. So thank you for your patience, Ashleigh, and thank you for the copy of your book that you sent me. Ashleigh Wempe is the author and designer of Mosaic Knitting Workshop, Modern Geometric Accessories for You in Your Home, which is available as either a paperback or an ebook. Let's back up for a minute, though. Mosaic knitting, for those of you who are not already in the know, is a method of knitting that allows you to create projects that have two colors in each row of your work, while you're only knitting the row with one color at a time. So, back with our imagining caps, right? With color A, you will knit your row out and back. So that's your first two rows done. Then with color B, you knit across. But when you want color A to appear in the row you're knitting, rather than knitting the stitch with color B, you just slip the stitch. And then when you knit back with color B, you only knit the stitches you knit with color B the first time, and you slip the color A stitches again. Then you're going to repeat the process for the next two rows with color A. You knit across the row, you slip the stitches that you want to be color B in that row instead of knitting them, and then you knit back again, knitting only the stitches that you knit with color A and slipping the color B stitches again. And basically what you're doing is you're pulling the other color up into the row you're on from the row before. Once you get the knack of it, it's genius and quick, and it tends to produce lovely squishy fabric. You do need to be mindful of your tension with all of those slip stitches, but it's no trickier than maintaining proper floats in Fair Isle knitting. The patterns in the book are really neat. The book starts with an explanation of mosaic knitting and some really solid tips if you are new. And even if you're not new, I've done a few mosaic projects already, and I learned a few things by reading the opening pages of the book. So I suggest you take the time to read all that information in the front before you dive into the patterns. When you do dive in, there are 13 patterns ranging from simple coasters that you can do to sort of get your mind around the process, to a couple of Afghans that are really gorgeous. As a former Arizona resident, I'm really drawn to the Saguaro Sunset Afghan that features repeating motifs of saguaro cactuses in front of a mountain range. There are patterns for rugs and can cozies and towels and wall hangings. I decided to cast on one of the accessory patterns and started the Color Play Triangle Shawl. This pattern starts at the point of a triangle, and you work increases on just one side so it grows into a triangle shape. The pattern calls for 2 balls of the same yarn in the same colorway. So it's the Lion brand mandala yarn, which is 100% acrylic DK weight yarn and features really long, slow color changes. So as you knit with the 2 balls, ideally the color changes are happening at different points. So you end up with long color changes in the background and long color changes in the pattern stitches, and the two stay distinct from one another because while one is going through its yellow period, for example, the other is going through its blue period. The patterns are both written out and charted. I usually work from charts, but I'm actually following the written instructions in this one. I'm not sure why. I just started out that way and it's working for me, so I'm sticking with it. I've found everything about this book to be clear and doable so far. I'm several repeats into the shawl, and I'm really happy with my results so far. I'm happy with the information at the front of the book. There are great technique guides at the back. Another thing I like about it is she gives you at least 2 colorways for each project. Smaller projects may have a whole handful of colorways, so you can think about what will suit you best. Like, which are you doing this for someone's home? Do you want to try and match their jacket? The bigger projects have the project in one colorway, and then there will be a swatch of the project in another colorway, so you can see how that option might work for you. I was especially tickled that the Swaro Sunset Afghan had a second colorway in the ASU maroon and gold colors, which I thought was very fitting. I'm confident in recommending this book, either as a go out and treat yourself purchase, or as something to add to your holiday wish list, or as a book to gift to a knitting friend. There are patterns in the book that are true beginner mosaic knitting patterns, and right up through you have advanced beginner and intermediate and advanced mosaic patterns. So it's especially suited to a situation where like you're headed to a gift exchange type event in the next month or two and you don't know who's going to end up with your gift. This book would cover everything from beginner mosaic knitters to advanced mosaic knitters. So it's a solid choice for that sort of mystery gift type situation. All of that said, and I mean everything that I said, I have 2 caveats to my recommendation. The first has to do with the actual formatting of the text. The font the publisher chose for this book is very fine. I have recently slipped into my old lady eye stage, but I showed it to my youngest daughter and she made the same comment that, oh, that font's really fine. I need to pull out my reading glasses or be in a very well lit place to see the text. Now, if you get the ebook version, you can zoom in, not a problem. And I will say that my reading glasses and proper lighting does help. I'm just putting this out there so you're aware. People with more severe vision issues may want to opt for the ebook version for that zoomability. Second, and if you've been listening to this podcast for a while now, you've probably already guessed what my second caveat is going to be. All the projects in the book are made in Lion Brand yarn, which means that a lot of them use yarns with high acrylic content. I'm not knitting the Color Play Triangle Shawl in the recommended yarn. Instead, I'm knitting it in DK weight organic Shetland breed wool from Uradale yarns. I chose 1 deep blue color to be color B throughout the whole project, and 3 lighter shades of blue to be color A through the whole project. So the lines of the pattern will stay dark blue, and the background color will still have that long color transition look that you get when you use the Lion Brand mandala yarn. And you can easily substitute a pure wool yarn for any of the acrylic wool and acrylic yarns in the book. Ashleigh tells you the thickness of the yarn she's recommending, so look for something comparable. If you want it to be machine washable, find a washable wool or a natural fiber blend that is going to be machine washable for you. And really, if you have a newer washing machine, most of them have a wool setting these days that handles the wool fine. Put it in a mesh bag, wash it in the wool setting, and dry it flat. Again, the book is called Mosaic Knitting Workshop, Modern Geometric Accessories for You and Your Home from Ashleigh Wempe. I'll have a link to the paper and ebook versions on Amazon in my show notes, but check with your local yarn store or another favorite bookstore to get your own copy. There is a baby blanket in here that's super cute that I think I may knit to have on hand for when I'm next invited to a shower. There's a scarf called Dancing Aspens that's really cute too. Grab yourself a copy of the book or pick one up for holiday giving. Or I have a copy to give away. If you're interested in winning a copy, use the link in the show notes to have a look at the book's listing on Amazon. And under the picture of the book, you can click to see images of most of the patterns that are in the book. Pick one you like and tell me what colors you'd use to knit it for yourself or your home. Put that in an email and send it to Anne@ithoughtIknewhow.com. with Mosaic Knitting in the subject line. I'll pick a winner on November 15th and email you back to get your postal address. I'm happy to mail this one anywhere worldwide, so hop over to the show notes, click the link to Amazon, pick a pattern you like, and email me what colors you'd knit it with to Anne@ithoughtIknewhow.com. You can't see the names of all the patterns, but you can just describe it to me if it's one of the ones where the name is missing on the sample pages. Good luck, guys. One more song this episode, and then I'll be back in touch on a few more things. This is Human's Wind with Down to Get Up Again. Enjoy, and I'll be back in a few minutes.
know the weather will get colder, that it can't always be spring. And when I pushed you in a stroller, you were looking up, singing life like a church hymn. You are gonna find your place, child. Of that much I know, I'm sure. Keep on laughing at the rain, I guess. Isn't that the place to start? Someday you will be stronger than you are now, but you will not know everything. And when the water's spilling over the bow, you'll still have me in the wings. You gotta get up to get down, kid. You gotta get down to get up again. You gotta get up to get down, kid. You gotta get down to get up again. Treat your mother like she's made of gold. After all, she brought you here. And if you're lost, go see the ocean. It will always help you steer. Someday you will be stronger than you are now, but you will not know everything. When the water's spilling over the bow, you'll still have me in the wings. You gotta get up to get down, kid. You gotta get down to get up again. You gotta get up to get down, kid. You gotta get down to get up again. Someday I will be weaker than I am now, and I still won't know everything. But when I'm passing up and over the clouds, I hope that you'll have learned from me. Someday you will be stronger than you are now, but you will not know everything. When the water's spilling over the bow, you'll still have me in the wings. You gotta get up to get down, kid. You gotta get down to get up again. You gotta get up to get down, kid. You gotta get down to get up again. You gotta get up to get down, kid. You gotta get down to get up again. You gotta get up to get down, kid. Hey, you gotta get down to get up again.
A few more things before I go. The Fiber Festival of New England is happening just a few days after this goes live. This is a good-sized festival these days, but people outside of the region don't seem to know about it. It takes place at the Eastern States Exposition Grounds, and it's always the first weekend in November. There are tons of vendors. While there are some classes and there's a few sharing demonstrations through the day, it's mostly a shopping type festival. But people come from all over the Northeast to vend. Even though it's called the New England Fiber Festival, you get people from New Jersey and Ohio and all over. It's all sorts of fibers and fiber crafts. They do a fleece sale as well. If Rhinebeck feels too intense for you, I think the Fiber Festival of New England is a solid alternative. I'll be heading there this Saturday. If you see me, say hi. Next, I wanted to make sure you all know that issue 4 of the Journal of Scottish Yarns is in pre-orders. To get your issue ordered, hop over to yarnjournal.com or look for the link in the show notes. You can order just the digital version, or you can order a paper version and you get the digital copy as well. I already have mine ordered and I'm looking forward to getting it in my hot little hands. Finally, Wovember really is such a busy time for me, so if I don't get a chance to do another episode this month, I wanted to make sure to remind you to check out the Purl Together YouTube channel through December. Jana and I will be doing our daily vlog through the month as we open our Advent yarn calendars. It's always a good time, and I love to have you join us. I will be back sometime in the not too distant future, and in the meantime, thank you for listening and knitting with me for a bit. The show notes are where you will find links to the things mentioned in the show, so be sure to check those out. Find me on my social media accounts as I Thought I Knew How, except on X, where it's just Thought I Knew How. The groups on various platforms are all called I Thought I Knew How Podcast. Until next time, may you be blessed with stitches that never drop, yarn without joins, and plenty of time to knit.